The comedians are getting restless again, and that spells disaster for Hollywood if they're going to start speaking some uncomfortable truths. It's unfortunate that we're running back this very old, very tired example of people just being too soft for comedy. I remember back in the day when it was Jerry Seinfeld putting up the big woke signal in the sky saying that college campuses, they aren't places where you can tell jokes anymore. People are becoming too soft. But that was what, 10, 15 years ago at this point in time, and now all of those people that were getting offended by what's the deal with airplane peanuts jokes now weaseled their way into the entertainment industry, and surprised, they haven't changed their politics because guess what? All of their friends came along and they decided to change the industry for the better, nah, for the worse. I think you already knew that, but Joe Coy, the guy who got absolutely roasted off of his Golden Globes hosting gig, well, now he's taking shots. It could be a little sour grapes this time around because he's not going to be coming back to the Golden Globes based on his incredibly poor performance, but he can also be speaking some truth. Well, I've never been a fan of Joe Coy. I always thought that he was, Dollar General version of Bill Burr, which I'm not a big fan of to begin with. Demands is right. Joe Coy performs first stand-up set since bombing at the Golden Globes. Mocks soft celebrity crowd. Can we effing laugh at ourselves? No, they can't. And you even framing this, and it's like, okay, cool, for as many props as I'm going to give you, can we laugh at ourselves? No, you have to realize something, okay? Shout out to the late, great George Carlin. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You got a very stark reminder of that. For as much pandering, for as much apologia as you were trying to do in the days afterwards, okay, they aren't going to let you in the club on this one. They're always going to look at comedians as court jesters. They're always going to look at you, any comedian hosting an award show, and immediately see that big round British face of Ricky Gervais, calling them to the mat, exposing them for the frauds that they are. They will never, ever, ever let another one into the group. On an icy 19-degree night in St. Louis, comedian Joe Coy was nowhere to be found. Amid a Midwestern snowstorm, his flight from Los Angeles had to make an emergency landing in Kansas City. While waiting for the comic to arrive, a screen read, "No heckling. You are interrupting the show for everyone. Just don't do it. Hecklers will be removed from the venue." 25 minutes after the 8 p.m. start time for his Joe Coy World Tour. Is this supposed to be Joy Coy? I kind of doubt that. I'd imagine that's probably a typo. The 3,100-seat Stifel Theater announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We are dealing with some inclement weather. The artists will be arriving shortly." Yeah, that's fantastic. Holy shit, right? Said Coy of the applause when he finally arrived at 9 p.m. in Tacoma, Washington. "This big hug that you gave me is all I need to swear to God fucking whirlwind. God damn." Alluding to his disastrous Golden Globes hosting gig in the fallout, he said, "A lot of marshmallows, man. They're delicious, but goddamn, they're soft. I just come from a different time. I see the changes and that are happening. I get it, but goddamn, can we fucking laugh at ourselves?" The audience roared with applause, and someone in the audience yelled, "Fuck 'em!" Coy said, "I got a feeling none of you motherfuckers watched it, and I'm kind of happy. Oh my God, it feels good to live in this country. We get to say what we want to say. Don't be apologetic about it all," which was not what you were doing in the days in the aftermath when you were like, well, things are all right. They weren't my jokes, but at the same time, I hope nobody took too much of offense. And yeah, I kind of ate my balls on stage, but tomato, it is what it is. To be able to speak your mind, it's Coy's speaking of his mind that drew the crowd to a cold January night. But yeah, this also harkens back to something that I've been talking about ad nauseum. If somebody just simply says the quiet part out loud, if somebody embraces the fact that this political correct malaise that has been affecting all of society for a very, very long time, this isn't just a 2016 thing, this isn't a 2008 thing, this is a decades old problem. And if somebody simply stands up and says no more, they are going to get thunderous applause. That's what you see right here with Joe Coy, who's apparently a much different guy when he's performing his act as he is on stage trying to shuck and jive for the people that are never going to accept him to begin with. But he learned that up close and personal. He figured out that the people up there in the ivory tower, there's a reason that there's not a return staircase. Once you get up there, they like to stay there, and they like to gatekeep that. For as much as they love to push open borders in a free and open world, there's that big old wrought iron gate outside of their communities. It's almost like that hypocrisy has been laid bare for the world to see, first exposed, I would say, to a mass market by Ricky Gervais, and again with Joe Coy here a couple of weeks ago at the Golden Globes. Everybody's seen it for exactly what it is. He goes and makes the softest joke about the NFL making way too many cutaways to Taylor Swift, and she can't take a joke like the rest of her compadres in Hollywood, and he ends up bearing the brunt of that. So no, celebrity crowds can't laugh at themselves. They won't allow themselves to be exposed to that level of hubris because they get constantly reaffirmed that they are better than you. They are the highest life forms, just grazing everybody else with their angelic presence. But as always, and as emphasized in today's day and age, the truth tellers, at least the guys who have the largest microphones, are the comedians that are out there. Joe Coy is talking about it right now. Ricky Gervais does his damnedest every opportunity to just shatter the perception of the modern celebrity. And hell, who has the biggest podcast out there right now? Joe Rogan. For as many other things as he does, he is a comedian first and foremost. And one of the busiest actors in all of Hollywood did cut his teeth in the stand-up world, and somebody who can still is a legitimate stadium act if he ever does manifest 45 minutes to an hour of material. Kevin Hart out there echoing the exact same sentiments. Kevin Hart says he won't host the Oscars again. Somebody else bit by the hand that he so desperately wanted to feed him. Award shows aren't comedy-friendly environments anymore. See how we've all just circled back to the college campus problem and how that really should have been taken seriously back by society at the time when it was going on, but oh well, no use crying over spilt milk. Kevin Hart has reiterated that he will not host the Oscars again. Hart was due to host the 2019 Oscars, but stepped down after an outcry over previous anti-gay tweets. Oh my god, so ridiculous. Yeah, Kevin Hart used to be pretty edgy. And then he ended up rounding off some of his corners, became, the little buddy for The Rock, after on his come up when he was the little Kev for Patrice O'Neal. If you want to see good Kevin Hart, there's still YouTube copies of the old Tough Crowd show that used to be on Comedy Central that's out there. And yeah, Comedy Central used to be such a different place back in the time when Chappelle's show was out there. Jon Stewart, even as cringe as he is, was still cracking jokes every once in a while. And then, yeah, Tough Crowd was probably the little redheaded stepchild, but it was pushing boundaries. It's definitely worth a watch if you've never heard of it before. The quality's not the greatest, but the lineups more than overwhelmingly make up for it. But anyways, yeah, back when Kevin Hart was getting canceled in 2019, he later told Variety that he'd never do it again and is sticking to his stance. Speaking to Sky News, Hart said, "Whatever little hopes you had, I want to destroy it right now. Those gigs aren't good gigs for comics. There's no shot at the Oscars, no shot at the Globes or anything else. Those just aren't comedy-friendly environments anymore." I think you got it right. 1 year when it was just a bunch of personalities acting as the host, and that's a nice thing. Yes, a nice, safe thing. And if you want to have a host, the likes of a Jimmy Kimmel, a guy who doesn't even have a funny bone left in his body thanks to Adam Carolla no longer commiserating with him, but somebody who had everybody else write his jokes for him. He's the perfect milquetoast host for events like this. It's a collaborative thing. Different people get to be responsible for Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, but the days of being a room for a comic, those days are done. I'd really have to go back and take a look at some of the jokes that the likes of Steve Martin were saying back when he was hosting the Oscars on a semi-regular basis. But I'd imagine, he was probably working the room, especially with his opening monologue, in a way that would just give, the current crop of movie stars the vapors. And it's not like the former hack prop comic, was like, the most biting of voices, but it was back when there was a mystique about Hollywood, where they didn't take this stuff so seriously, but now they're just so self-important, and they're constantly reaffirmed on social media, the media in general. But yeah, they've just lost sight to the average person. Hart had previously hosted the BET Awards, MTV Music Awards, and the MTV Movie Awards, praised his fellow comics who have had successful hosting gigs. Shout out to those who have cracked the code and done it right early on. Chris Rock's of the world. Yeah, dude, Chris Rock, I don't know if Chris Rock, actually his most recent comedy special was pretty based, but old Chris Rock and even Madagascar Chris Rock, yeah, he's not hosting now. Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, yeah, no, those ones for sure. Yo, Billy Crystal, oh my God, he was probably that type of milquetoast hack that everybody thought that a host should be. Ricky Gervais, yeah, he ain't getting a call back, that's for True City. There's a lot of people that understand that if you're not an industry comic, meaning a comic that has a relationship of all, then those rooms are very cold, meaning that they're not receptive. So me doing it is, of course, at an advantage because I know the room, and for me, and familiar with so many, but for others, it's not the same. It's not a gig that it was of old. There's too much pressure for the idea that the comic and what jokes and what is jokes and what are not jokes. So it's tough. Yeah, man, and that just speaks to a much broader problem. But now that Joe Coy, the most recent host and one of the biggest names in comedy, are coming out saying that, Hollywood just kind of has a big humor problem, kind of crystallizes a problem that, people have been talking about for a very long time, but then also speaks to the fact that Hollywood kind of has a problem, and it's been a long time. Like, when was the last time that there was a big budget comedy film that resonated with a lot of people? I've talked about this before, and it is something that I will go ahead and continue to drive home. Judd Apatow ruined comedy. The moment I saw 40-Year-Old Virgin, I knew that the genre was dead and buried. And well, after he was done with his unfunny run, what happened to the comedy genre? Oh, that's because he decided to pick safe targets like his hello fellow white people. We can go ahead and poke fun at ourselves as long as we poke fun at the easy targets and, never poke at the people that are actually in power. Oh, that'll totally be fine. But then somebody got the invites into the castle and then realized that, everything that I did in order to get up there, that's not funny anymore. And we can just go ahead and blame Orange Man for all the divisions in society. Yeah, no, exactly. Spoken like a true. Well, we don't need to delve into that, but shout out to Kevin Hart for just articulating an honest point, which is very, very difficult to do for most people in today's day and age. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.